Rome, the crown of the ancient world, glittered under the Mediterranean sun, its marble temples gleaming white, its legions marching in perfect unison, and its emperors ruling with voices that echoed through history. Yet beneath the grandeur was a darkness so deep, the empire itself hesitated to name it. Into that darkness, one night, a noblewoman disappeared, a woman whose beauty was matched only by the influence of her bloodline, vanishing without the cry of a crowd or the spectacle of a public execution. There was no Senate trial, no chance to defend herself, only the cold certainty of a fate already decided. Her crime was not treason, nor rebellion, but a whisper carried on the breath of rumor that she had broken Rome's most sacred code, the code of chastity and loyalty that bound every woman's life. In a city obsessed with honor, this single accusation was enough to strip her of the right to walk under the light of the sun. She was taken in silence to a place from which no one returned. In that moment, Rome showed its truest power, the ability to erase a life without spilling a single drop of blood. Rome loved to present two faces to the world, one carved in marble and bathed in glory, the other hidden in shadow. From a distance, the city seemed to be the pinnacle of civilization, a place where law, order, and discipline reigned. Yet for those who lived within its walls, especially women, the truth was far more suffocating. Behind the triumphal arches and the roar of victory parades lay a system built on obedience, silence, and fear. Men earned honor through speeches in the Senate or victories on the battlefield, but women were measured by a different scale entirely, judged not by their deeds but by their ability to embody an ideal of virtue, their worth tied to the reputation of their family, a fragile thing that could shatter with a single misstep. Under patria potestas, a father could exile or even kill his children, and a husband could control every aspect of his wife's life, from the friends she kept to the words she spoke. For a Roman woman, every glance, every movement, every whispered rumor could become a weapon. In that dangerous world, survival meant never stepping beyond the invisible boundaries set by the men who owned her. At first glance, the noblewoman at the heart of this story seemed to live a life many would envy, draped in fine silks that shimmered in the torchlight, adorned with gold that caught the sun, moving through marble halls where servants bowed at her passing. Yet all that beauty was a mask for a cage she could never leave. In Rome, even the most privileged women were prisoners of custom and law. She could not vote, could not hold office, and could not own property without a male guardian's oversight. Every coin, every estate, and every decision passed through the hands of a man. Her marriage, like so many among the elite, was not a bond of love but a contract of politics, designed to strengthen alliances and protect family honor. Her role was to bear heirs and keep the household beyond reproach. But in such a world, even perfection was fragile. One careless word, one misinterpreted glance could bring ruin, and in the city's hunger for scandal, rumor was often more dangerous than truth. In Rome, accusation alone could be a death sentence. The blow came swiftly, not in the form of an armed guard at her door, but in the hushed, deliberate whispers that began to circle through the marble corridors. She was accused of the gravest betrayal a Roman woman could commit, the violation of chastity. In another time or place, such a charge might have remained a private matter, but in Rome, it was a weapon sharper than any sword. A woman's body was not her own, it was the vessel of her family's bloodline, the guardian of legitimacy for heirs, and with legitimacy came power, land, and wealth. To accuse her of infidelity was to threaten the very structure of her family's future. The rumor carried an even darker twist, that her supposed lover was tied to a rival faction opposed to her household's interests. Whether true or not hardly mattered. In the political games of Rome, perception was everything. This accusation turned her life into a battlefield. In the eyes of the powerful men who now judged her, she had not merely shamed her husband, she had insulted the honor of Rome itself, and such an insult could only be answered with destruction. ChatGPT said, her trial was not held beneath the vaulted ceilings of the Senate, nor before the watchful eyes of the Roman people. Instead, it unfolded in private chambers where the walls themselves seemed to conspire against her. The men presiding were not impartial judges, but guardians of family honor and protectors of political standing. They did not seek truth, they sought an example. In Rome, the law allowed fathers, husbands, and magistrates to pass judgment over women accused of moral crimes, and in these rooms, mercy was as rare as defiance. The evidence against her was fragile, built from whispers, the testimony of slaves wrung out under fear, and the poisonous spread of rumor. She was denied the chance to summon her own witnesses, for without her guardian's permission, her voice carried no weight. Each word she spoke was smothered beneath the authority of men whose decision had been made long before she entered. To leave her unpunished would be weakness, and weakness was a stain Rome would not bear. The verdict was inevitable, but it was the manner of her punishment that would turn her from a scandal into a silent warning carved into the heart of every Roman woman. The sentence was delivered without tremor or hesitation. She would not face the roar of the arena, the blade of an executioner, or the spectacle of a public death. Her fate was to be sealed alive beneath the earth, a punishment Rome reserved for those it deemed beyond redemption, yet too shameful to display. It was called vivae sepultura, live burial, the same fate inflicted upon Vestal virgins accused of breaking their sacred vows. The state claimed it could not shed the blood of such women, so it wrapped its cruelty in the thin veil of piety. A small underground chamber was prepared, furnished with a lamp, a morsel of bread, and a jug of water. Its narrow entrance was left open just long enough for her to be lowered inside. The food was never meant to save her, it was a gesture to soothe the conscience of those passing judgment. When the last stone slid into place and the light above shrank to a sliver, Rome could declare her fate was in the hands of the gods. But everyone knew the truth, the earth was her tomb, and the city itself had buried her alive. The air inside the chamber was cool at first, carrying the faint scent of damp stone, but with every passing moment, it grew heavier, harder to draw into her lungs. The single lamp flickered weakly, its flame swaying as though it too feared the darkness pressing in from all sides. She could hear the muffled scrape of the final stone being set above her, a sound that marked the last connection to the world she had known. The voices outside faded, replaced by a silence so complete it roared in her ears. Hours may have passed, or perhaps only minutes, as time began to lose its shape in the blackness. The bread lay untouched, the water unstirred, for she knew they were not salvation but tokens in a cruel ritual. The darkness closed tighter, the air staler, her thoughts circling the same truth that she would never again feel the sun, never hear her name spoken without shame. As the lamp's flame thinned to a trembling thread before vanishing altogether, she was left alone in a void that swallowed both breath and hope, a death not of blood, but of silence and erasure. When the stones had sealed her away, Rome spoke of her no more. Her name was struck from records, her memory buried as deep as her body. Yet the shadow of her fate spread quietly through the marble streets. Every woman in the city knew what had happened, even if they dared not speak it aloud. Mothers whispered warnings to daughters, and wives measured every word, every glance, for they understood the truth the empire had just carved into their hearts that wealth, virtue, and noble blood offered no shield against ruin. The state cloaked its cruelty in the language of morality, claiming such punishments preserved Rome's honor, but the real purpose was control. The lesson was clear, obedience was not optional. A single rumor could drag even the most privileged into darkness. Her story was never written on stone, never sung in the public square, yet it endured in silence, passed in careful whispers through generations. In those whispers, Rome's women heard a truth far more enduring than marble, that the empire which built aqueducts and amphitheaters also built tombs for the living, and filled them with those who dared to step beyond their chains.